greetings, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. It's basically going to be all about Timezync and Gridly and how they have managed to improve their workflows and turnaround times and all that good stuff. So yeah, again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for joining us this lovely afternoon. So maybe let's get going and introduce ourselves. Johan, could you please say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Johan. I'm the CEO of Timezync and also the founder. So yeah, been very involved in everything, like from both tech stack and DevOps and the product and everything around that.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. And my name is Gabor. I'm the Customer Experience Manager at Gridly. I've been doing basically IT my whole life. I've been the lonely system admin, and then I realized that people are actually fun to work with, and I joined the language industry. So now I'm here. So that's me in a super nutshell. All right, let's actually get going, and let me kind of lay out the agenda for today. So we're going to be touching on, obviously, the biggest pain points and what made Timezync actually even think about having Gridly as their tool of choice. Obviously, the typical challenges that comes from launching new languages in a SaaS platform. Google Sheets, obviously Google Sheets is super popular and it's awesome, but why the change? What caused the change? Why is Gridly better in ways? And yeah, obviously we're gonna kind of show you some Gridly related stuff as well at the end. So Johan will share some of their content as well and show you some kind of live demo exciting stuff. So let's actually get going. So basically, first things first. So Johan, could you maybe just in a few words just tell us about Timezync, how it started, what it is, and yeah, just a very quick, basically.
Yeah, sure. Well, so Timezync is an online platform for like scheduling, time management, collaboration. So I mean, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the hub of a company, of like a people-centric company, where you can plan the work, where you can do salaries, you can send messages, you can like collaborate with your customers and get their orders in and plan where everyone is going to go. And yeah, we started in 2010. In the beginning, it was just a mobile app, actually, that was integrated to other like resource management systems. And then we found out as we were selling this mobile app that most of our customers actually hated their current resource management system. So even if our mobile app made it more tolerable to work with, the systems of themselves were like dinosaurs and like slow, bad user experience, expensive. So we made a pivot in like 2013 and made the mock-up system we had been using to demo. We made that our main product, and then the mobile app that had been selling before was just like included in the package. And now we're on like generation 6 of this platform.
Oh, that's very nice. And throughout the generations, how did the development cycle change? So I know that kind of back in the day, it used to be just the release, and now the things have shifted more to a kind of a live environment where things update rapidly. So did that happen with you guys as well, or how did the
well evolve? I mean, things have evolved in terms of DevOps and automation, but we've always had like from the beginning, like we were people coming from the software industry and all very interested in in like processes and workflows and ways of like making software development more fun and like faster cycles and better feedback. So I mean, we have been releasing several times daily, more or less since the first version of the first product.
That's really cool.
So yeah. And of course, that was a lot more work when releasing mobile apps on Java phones, like old key phones.
Sure.
So and now, like of course, like the backends and the web front ends are very easy to deploy and release. That's all automated in the continuous integration.
Mm. Which kind of brings us to typical challenges. So first off, kind of what made you add more languages? How did you decide what languages to add? How was it before, and how is it now to kind of add stuff, add new content, keep things updated, up to date?
Yeah. Well, the reason for adding languages are, I think we have had through the years two main reasons for that. I mean, one is trying to open up or unlock a new market to be able to sell the platform in a new geographical area. And for that, you need to be localized, typically, at least like in the line of software we are doing, which is, I mean, we're not interfacing with software developers. Our typical customer is like some kind of people-centric business. It could be a restaurant, it could be a cleaning company, it could be a hospital. Yeah, we have all the nuclear power plants in Sweden, our customers.
That's awesome.
But like the level of language and technical skills vary a lot. So
of course, yeah.
To get into a new market, we need to be in the local languages. So that has been one, like that we wanted a new language, and the other one has been customer pull, that we have had customers who want a new language. And that has typically been for internal collaboration. That's an interesting side effect that we didn't actually expect with the platform in combination with translations, is that we have several examples now where the customer itself is multilingual. So maybe like management is in one country and the people working are in or from another country, and they don't have any common languages. So they collaborate 100% using the platform. And since the platform is translated, that works perfectly fine. They can create shifts and tasks, and it will be translated. So each side will see the content in their own language and be able to plan and for the people who don't they don't have a common language with. So
yeah, that's very cool. So basically, like management could be speaking English and German, for example, but the workers are, let's say, they are, I don't know, Polish or Hungarian or whatever, and they still find common ground. So
yeah, exactly. And through the system, they, like, since the interface and everything is translated, they both understand what's going on.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then basically, how are you getting the content translated is the other question. So how did you get started, and where are you with that now?
Well, we got started by translating the content ourselves, because in the beginning we had the translation strings just in a big JSON file. And we only had languages that we or someone at the company knew. So in the beginning we had Swedish, English, Danish, and Norwegian. So yeah, we just translated that by ourselves. And then I think Polish was our first language that we were unable to just do by ourselves, and that was what motivated the move to Google Sheets. Because it was obviously impossible to find a translation bureau willing to work with JSON. That just will not happen. So we made a script to pull all our strings and keys into Google Sheets, and then we could send that spreadsheet to the translator, wait 6 weeks, get back an outdated version, and write another script to try to merge the keys back into the Google Sheet. And yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like, obviously we'll touch on this in a little bit later as well in the kind of the Google Sheet part. But that's actually something super common I see with a lot of clients. So if you start with Google Sheets, obviously it's very difficult to get things, to keep things up to date, permissions, all that. It can turn
and also like you will not get, like, obviously a translation will not take an hour. So while the translation is ongoing, you will keep adding keys and keep adding content. So when you get the translation back, it will unavoidably be out of date to some extent. And when you have a lot of keys, it will be a lot out of date.
Yeah. And as it stands, basically, just if simple mistakes could happen along the way as well, that could like literally break stuff, right? So
yeah, it's super easy also to make a mistake when merging 30,000-40,000 keys from a one sheet into another sheet. I one time managed to almost fuck up our entire translations because I discovered too late that the translation bureau had changed the sorting of the keys. So I was just going and merging by line number, but that was really did not work.
Yeah, or even like in my experience, even if you exchange or incorrectly paste a tag or something, could like literally break a release or cause issues down the line as well, right? So that kind of keeping things consistent and making sure everything is in correct order, correctly kind of QA'd. Yeah. All right. Cool. So yeah, we kind of basically
we I guess we kind of missed like how we are doing things today, like concerning adding new languages. And today we just use Localize Direct, which are working directly in Gridly. So basically we just ask them to add a new language, and then they, like, since they work in Gridly, they have all our existing translations. They have the source language, but also if they maybe are not unsure about the nuance of the word chosen in English, for example, they could look at Dutch and probably get some more information about what it is. And if they still don't know, they can click in the row and just make a comment or send a question.
Just for the people that don't know Gridly, we might have some in here. So in Gridly, we actually have a ticket system where people can just add comments, questions, and all that good stuff. So collaboration is actually super easy. Oh, all right. Let's actually talk about. We already started talking about Google Sheets already. So let's kind of dive deeper a little bit. So a lot of people actually start using Google Sheets because obviously it's free, it's readily available. It's it's good to start, but kind of the free aspect, as kind of the slide suggests, it's not free per se because it would still require kind of development time, right? So Google Sheets is not made for translation workflows or anything like that.
Of course. So I think as it is right now, you could even debate if it's free in the terms of money, since like realistically for a software team, you will be using Google Workspace,
right?
Just to manage the permissions in a sensible way. I mean, you don't have to, but you probably will. So but sure, it's. I mean, there are a lot of issues. I think the biggest one that costs actual money is getting new translations in, because it will take extra time for the translation bureau, and it will take extra time for your developers to get a sheet out and then get a version back and merge those keys and then try to fix up and send the leftovers for another translation cycle and merge that again. That's
And
so.
On that note, finding a translation partner is difficult in itself, right? So
it is, yeah. I mean, there are tons of translation partners, and it's really easy to find one, but it's difficult to find one that is good, and
exactly.
because there is no like objective measure to what that means. Really, it's very difficult to evaluate bureaus against each other on anything but price. And like you're not going to send the same sheet for translation to 2 different bureaus and then see which of the translations you like best. I mean, it's extremely difficult to evaluate the quality of a big translation.
Yeah, like some companies do it, but they have like a super elaborate quality assurance kind of requirements and protocols and things like that. But generally it's very, very, very difficult. And of course, collaborating in Google Sheets in itself could be an issue, because then giving access, making sure that they don't change the content that should not be changed, record IDs, all that. So
we actually had, when we were using Google Sheets, there were only I think even only some of the developers that had access to the sheet, and not sales or marketing, which often had valid reasons to change a string, because like some parts of the interface are more related to their domain. They talk to the customers. Customer support talk to the customers daily, of course. And if a customer comments that, well, this translation is a bit weird, it would be, or it is now, very smooth for them to go into Gridly and update it.
Right.
But we didn't really dare to have that access when we were using Google Sheets, because if you changed the key you weren't supposed to change, or moved the order of something, I mean, you could break the production build, basically.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. So yeah, that's actually a kind of very nice highlight of permissions in Gridly. You can make stuff read only if you wanted to, obviously, kind of granularly define access rights, which you can't really do in Google Sheets. So
yeah, and also it's way more fault tolerant. I mean, it's it's more difficult to completely destroy it.
Yeah. You need the correct kind of permission to destroy stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course, basically version history. As well. To like keep track of the changes in Google Sheets is practically impossible, right? So
and also actually API and programmability. I mean, you can get a JSON version out of a Google Sheet, but we've seen instances where they like just changed the JSON format of that URL, like from one day to another, and we had to rewrite all our scripts for getting translations. Because it's not an official API. It's just like a kind of sort of unofficial JSON export of a sheet. It's
yeah. So again, kind of pointing back to the first point here, that it may actually require more development time than basically just have a company or professionals kind of develop the specific solution for that kind of thing and maintain it.
And I mean, if you're lucky, then a translation system will actually already have bindings in the language you use, so you will not have to script or do anything special for yourself. You can
and you don't have to maintain
use it out of the box.
As well,
definitely.
If stuff changes,
that's a big one.
Cool. All right. So then, basically, it's the time where could you maybe just kind of talk us through and walk us through your setup? How did you kind of start out with Gridly? How things have evolved? What is kind of your general workflow look like?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think I need to stop sharing the screen so you can basically share yours, and then I think we haven't mentioned this at the beginning, but yeah, if anybody has any questions, let us know in the chat. There are some nice colleagues monitoring the chat. They will be able to answer some questions, and of course, we are more than happy to do so as well.
Yeah, of course. Right. So yeah, I'm going to share this window, I think. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we have basically chosen to do one Gridly grid per application that we're running. So the main big ones are the public web app, which has quite a few keys, and here we have all the target languages we are currently supporting. And the latest one to add was Ukrainian, which we added. But both Dutch and Ukrainian was added through Localized Direct, and I think Ukrainian took maybe 4 days or something. But we got a lot of tickets on that one. It was a lot of like nuances on like, okay, so which of these 4 meanings of this English word do you really mean? Because they all have different words in Ukrainian. So
That's fair enough. But still, 4 days, that's very impressive.
It was very, very nice. And like, so the 2 big ones are the front end and the back end grids, which contain like, you know, most of the strings used in the system. So what we do here is that we use the Gridly API and pull this into a script in the continuous integration environment, and reformats it into, I mean, whatever format is most suitable for the target. So the backend is written in Clojure, which is running on the JVM. So for the backend, we're formatting into Java resource files, so we can use like the built-in localization of Java platform. And for the front end, we're pulling it into different JSON files, so we can use it in JavaScript. And then this is the interface. So this is the main schedule, and like all of these different parts of the interface obviously come from Gridly and from the translation strings there. So if I go into my profile, we also pull the list of available languages are pulled just from the names of the columns, or actually the lang name key. So we have the language names all in English, so we can understand them, and then we have this key for language name in the local language. So it just pulls it from there, and you can change to whatever you like. Change it to Dutch, so I don't lose my navigation completely. And then like all the interfaces is changed.
That's really cool. And how long did it take you to actually implement this and for example, switch from Google Sheets to Gridly and basically do all this cool stuff?
Yeah, I guess like doing all the importing of the Google Sheet data into Gridly probably took like half a day or something. I mean, mostly, it's not difficult to export CSV and then import it, but then just checking for things like char sets, special characters. We have some strings that have formatting in them. Let's see if we can find any one of those, but like that have like some kind of substitution in them. Yeah, can I find any one of those now? Yeah, anyway, but just checking like special cases that they were imported correctly. And then we had to rewrite the tools we were using to pull from Google Sheets and use the Gridly API instead. And
right,
that probably took a day with like some testing and some setup and getting that into the continuous integration environment.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and then obviously, just to kind of mention this as well, Gridly, as probably everyone can see, is very spreadsheet-like. So, like literally switching to Google Sheets to Gridly should be familiar basically to anyone. Right?
And so, I mean, I think actually that is it's both kind of a bold but also a very good choice in interface. Like we were evaluating like 3 or 4 different localization systems before choosing Gridly, and most of them had more like I don't know what you would call it, but more like a web app kind of interface where like you had a list of products, and then when you went into that, you saw an identical list of keys, and you had to click a key, and there you had rows for all the different languages. So getting an overview or quickly editing or tabbing between columns was not really possible. They didn't really, I think they wanted to separate themselves from a spreadsheet and not look like a spreadsheet. Because they wanted to say, oh, but this is custom made for translations. This is not just a general spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And they were using that kind of as a selling point. And in a way, I mean, that's nice and all, but spreadsheets are smooth to work in. And I think a powerful thing with Gridly is that you don't have to put only strings and things that are supposed to be translated into the spreadsheet. For example, we have one spreadsheet here that has salary codes in different economy systems. So it doesn't have anything to do with languages, actually. And I've seen other examples where you actually have pictures. We also have our different subscriptions and the price lists in Gridly, because it's a programmable spreadsheet. Of course, it's very nice to work with for language data, but the columns don't actually have to be languages all the time. You can have other kinds of data. So this is really nice. Like our sales team can go in and update the prices here, and that will like take effect.
Yeah. That's actually like some of the our other customers actually use this a lot as well, for like linking images or
we actually been thinking of doing that. But we would need better integration with CMS for that to be really useful to us, because like if we go to the homepage instead, which obviously has a lot of different content in different language, like then we have some screenshots of things. Let's see if I find a good example. Maybe just the front page carousel. Yeah, so here we have some screenshot of the system, and well, now we're on the English page, so that's in English. But it would be really nice, if it would be possible to save these kinds of animations and then pull them straight into the CMS. So when we switch to a different language, we could have these carousels in local language. Now that's too much work, so actually most of the screenshots are in English on all languages. But that still gives you the feeling of that, like, oh, this is probably not a very native local system. Maybe when I log in, I will not be able to get it in Dutch, which you can, but it's too much work for us to manage screenshots in all of the languages for the webpage right now. So that is one thing we're maybe looking at developing, or I've been talking to Gridly also, that a WordPress plugin, for example, would be a really cool addition.
Absolutely.
I mean, just to get the power of these grids into more places.
Translators basically love anything that's referenced. So, images, videos, any kind of additional stuff to help make their lives kind of easier as well. Is always nice to have.
Yeah. But I guess like that's kind of like the helicopter view of how things are connected together. We've started using the glossaries a little bit, which is a cool feature.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, are you actually utilizing the TM and the glossary in any way?
We are. There are some things maybe that has been changed, but there were some things I was kind of missing from. Is that on localization settings? Yeah, it is. That I was kind of missing under glossaries, because we have obviously some terms that are like very specific and that need to be used the same exact word all the time, because we want to be like consistent in the interface with, like, when we talk about a work shift, we always want to use the term shift. So we have some fixed terms like this. I think like the glossary is not as easy to edit as the grids. I mean, it doesn't have like this nice Excel view. And before, it was actually missing this context field, which made it like difficult to describe what it was about. But it seems like it has been updated and are actually nicer now. So this will also make it easier. If we order translation, they can look into the glossary and answer a lot of the questions they would otherwise have created tickets for. Yeah,
and it's basically as part of my job. Lots more improvements are on the way in terms of translation.
So we actually tried doing this when we got all these questions back from the Ukrainian translator, to actually go in and document most of those answers in the glossary. So the next time we add another language, we will already have defined these terms in a more narrow way. Yeah, so that's very nice. Right.
Cool. All right. So basically, I think, hang on, let me check if we have a couple questions. I'll reshare my screen as well. But yeah, if we need to answer some questions, then please let us know. So, all right. Cool. So yeah, thank you very much. That was super awesome. So
nice.
All right. So here is just kind of a reflection. So, are you happy with Gridly? How did Gridly help you? Obviously, time saving, cost saving.
Yeah.
Very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Team effort, development side, translation side, end user side, all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped on all these accounts. Like it's saving us time, like on a daily basis, like whenever we need to touch or manage keys, and also it's more reliable in the continuous integration pipeline. Like it just works very well. And on cost, of course, like the monthly cost for Gridly is slightly higher, but I mean we save it many times over in development time, which also costs a lot of money, a lot more money than systems, and also in translation expenses. Using Localize Direct, since they're working directly in Gridly and have access to the glossary and can just work faster and more efficient, I think a translation is probably half the price as when we were sending just a spreadsheet to someone.
Nice. Yeah, but the turnaround times are
and the turnaround time is much faster, and we don't have to have a developer that merges all the keys when they come back. So all in all, it's probably we're probably saving 70-80% in money on a new translation.
Wow, that's awesome. And then going back to the kind of continuous kind of translation or localization side, it's much easier for developers to keep stuff updated. And then therefore to have the kind of translators always work from the kind of latest version of the current strings and strings that they need to actually have a look at, right? So and it kind of trickles back as well. So it's saving everyone time and effort to have always up-to-date stuff, and then whatever gets translated back, basically the developers can be sure that they can just sync it back in and test it out, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, as mentioned, for collaborative, of course, Gridly in itself is a collaborative tool, so people can come in, edit stuff.
You can edit, write comments, you can mark a translation as outdated, and you can send it for translation externally to the company.
Yep.
And also, like I said, like we can have like the marketers and the salespeople and support people can go in and work in Gridly. While they couldn't really do that in Google Sheets, or we didn't dare to let them do that in Google Sheets.
Right.
And the developers can also write comments on translations or ask questions and add new keys. And
like one of my favorite things is basically views, right? So you can create the view, right? You can share it with people, and in that view, you can actually customize what columns they have access to, what they can only see, what read only, so they cannot change the record ID, for example, but they can use it as a reference. So I see people using that a whole lot, right? So that
we actually never tried the views feature. Maybe we should. We didn't really understand the use case for it, so we never tried it.
Okay, talk to this guy after.
Yeah, you should.
For sure. But yeah, I think that's, when it comes to collaboration, that's super nice, because you can have like the default view, like you can see as you showed, you can see everything, all the strings, all the keys in one place. And then when marketing needs to have access to something, you can literally just create a view, for example, for the marketing team, and then they can only see the columns that they need to see, and then nothing else, right? So so that can be, and of course, via the API, you can refer to a specific view, so you can pull, like, the developers could pull test data to their test instance and all that stuff. So yeah, there you go. There's some ideas.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, so any advice basically for people that are kind of thinking about implementing new languages, getting ready to get their stuff shipped out, first time developers, any advice basically you can provide us with here?
I don't really know. I think, like, generally, I think it's like, if you are the kind of product where language and feeling local and being understandable to your customers is important, I think it's really worth thinking about the way you're going to handle this. I mean, whether you choose a system or not, like thinking through the processes you want around localization and translation and how you need that to be handled. I mean, that's pretty important, and then it can make a big difference for your costs, but I think more importantly for your sales and how your customers are using the product.
Absolutely. And one thing that, if I may jump in with one kind of advice to reflect on as well, is that in a lot of companies, I see localization comes last, and it's always kind of a rush job, right? So if you're thinking about implementing localization, or you already have a localization pipeline, as you guys are doing it now, so working with the developers handling the localization is super important, because I've seen examples where product is almost out, you have 2 weeks to get the translations done, whatever, get it done, kind of thing. It's very hard to kind of work on that. So consider,
and it's also, I mean,
people, and,
and I mean, it's a terrible amount of work. It's almost impossible to start to localize a product that hasn't been written with localization in mind from the beginning.
Of course.
I guess that's another one. Like, if you're starting on a brand new product, never use a literal string anywhere.
I've seen some examples of of that as well. It's a nightmare to extract.
Yeah, it's a terrible
text.
amount of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is. Thank you very very much for your insight and input. This was actually super cool. So I'm not sure we still have about maybe 10-15 minutes for the questions in here. So yeah, let's maybe have a look at the chat and see if we have any questions in here. All right, so let's see. It would be interesting to hear about the team setup, Timezync, and how they work with Gridly. Who does what? Is a question.
Right. So I mean, the team setup is basically that like all the developers are working in Gridly. So whenever you make a feature or fix a bug, that might involve updating or adding or removing translation keys, right? So yeah. The developer doing that will do that, and then that will be visible in the code review. So the reviewer might go in and take a look at new keys added, and a developer will typically add the key only in English.
Right.
And then like we have like localized direct or someone like filling in the other languages. We're thinking of using this new automation thing. Like those got an email of that a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't had time to implement it. Where if you add a new key, you could have like a machine translation do the first translation, but then mark them probably as need update or need review.
Right.
But at least like then you can build and push the product, and it will be something will be showing there.
Yeah. Machine translation obviously is super nice for like placeholder text if you need to see it in a builder or something.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're going to do that.
That's very nice. Yeah. All right. Okay. Can you set word count or max characters per string? Can you add comments to each string to help translators? Yes, you can. So basically in Gridly, since it's a spreadsheet-like system, you can use formulas as well, for instance. So you could provide or push the maximum characters limit, for instance, as a number-based column. And then you can have a formula to measure for that. So, if you have, for example, 50, then you can set a formula that if the Spanish translation, let's say, exceeds 50 characters, give the translator a warning, for instance. So yeah, that can be super easily set up. And comments and questions, and we've kind of touched on with the ticket system in Gridly.
Yeah.
All right. Is it recommended to get your translated languages outside of Gridly and manually importing them, or to give the translation company access to Gridly? We have use cases for both. Obviously, if you give access to the translation in Gridly, it's much more convenient because, as we mentioned, developers can update text in essentially real time, right? So if the text changes, obviously, if the translator works inside of Gridly, they will see it instantly. You do have the option to manually export the data out to like an Excel, or if it's a JSON-based grid, JSON or PO or anything like that. But then obviously that would need also manually updating anytime the actual text in Gridly changes as well. So yeah, ideally, you would have at least like the project manager basically working in Gridly, and then they can take care of the actual updating the translators. What are the advantages in splitting your keys into different grids? Is it for access control? Say a project gets nowhere near the 10K key limit. Isn't using the path a more practical way of handling applications domains? Again, we kind of have use cases for both. I would say indeed the paths are much more convenient because then you will have the ability to see kind of everything in one place, and you can manage all the languages, everything in one place. But as you have it, Johan, set up right now, right? It's like the grids talk to different, essentially, web pages or an app. So there's totally use cases for all. So
I think definitely we could have had everything in one grid, and probably the reason we don't is because we migrated from Google Sheets, where we had, for very good reasons, one sheet per application. And like just importing it into the same structure made the transition very easy.
That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, in Gridly, you can, even as I mentioned before, even if you have it if you create a view, for example, for UI and website and whatnot, you can refer to those with an API key, or API ID. So each view in Gridly has a unique ID you can refer to from the API. So technically, you could still have the same setup and just kind of vary the setup with the views and the separate API keys. But yeah, that's either or. It's basically the best answer for that, I guess. Cool. Is it possible to set up a custom view where you can view comments and queries per record ID as a list without having to use the comments section on the right? So for the comments, they are pretty much, so technically per view, yes. You could filter out. It's more like the user right, essentially, when it comes to views. So if a translator doesn't have access to a view and you have a ticket in that view, they won't see the ticket, essentially. So it's kind of a combination. So technically, you can do this by just kind of access control, if you will. Yeah. Cool. All right. Someone talked about the 10K limit. Is that per grid? So it depends. Basically, that's gonna be on the subscription tier. For the free tier, it's 10K. The pro tier is 100K, and the enterprise tier is 1,000,000 strings per grid. Yes. So technically, you could have any number of 10K grids. It's just literally that the one grid cannot exceed 10K, for example, on the free. Right. I may have missed, but did you have a dedicated role for handling localizations?
No, we don't have that.
All right. Can we tag the keys that we want to record some voiceover for? Yeah. So in Gridly, you can actually tag things several ways. We do have, for example, very easy. You can have a Boolean column, right? True or false, yes or no. That kind of scenario, just for the voiceover check kind of case. Or you could also have, for example, single or multi-select type columns, where you can, provide a list of values. So voiceover, for localization, for VO, I don't know, a whole bunch of, you can basically build a list. And then if it's a single select, then obviously one value could be selected, and then you could just even filter on that, for example. But yeah, so I would say for that, Booleans or kind of a single select would be nice. And then to take it further, we have a bunch of clients actually having a VO in Gridly. So we kind of spoke about the views. You can create a view for the voiceover guy, or for the audio manager, basically. and then they could come into Gridly. Excuse me. They could come into Gridly, and then they could access a view where all they see is literally the assets that they need voiceover for, or record voiceover, or generate a script for, or something like that. So yeah, that can actually be super cool. All right. Does Gridly support formulas? Yes, we kind of mentioned that as well. Is there a usage of Gridly outside localization? Yes. There's a whole bunch. Basically, you can use Gridly. We have clients actually using Gridly for kind of production. So we have, for example, game designers. Let's say they design, and just like you do, Johan, with the website data, pricing, subscription tiers, and things like that, right? So you can actually manage not only localization content, but those subscription tiers and values and pricing you could change in Gridly, and then those instantly sync to your app, to your game, or whatnot. We do have clients that they adjust character values for their testing instance. For example, they put their more attack power or health to a character, and they test it out in their instance. So yeah, VO, so voiceover, we've mentioned, audio assets, you can manage all that cool stuff. So yes, there's definitely a whole bunch of use cases outside of localization as well. All right, I think that's basically all the questions that I can see. So yeah, we're basically on time as well. All right. So I'm not sure if you guys have any more questions, please let us know. But if not, then yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, mainly Johan, thank you. That was
thank
really
you.
Cool. Thank you very much for the opportunity
everyone.
and for your time. And yeah, thank you everyone who's joined. I think yeah, cool. Yeah, actually, sorry, we have one last question. Can you set word count? I think we answered this one. Sorry, the maximum word count and string limit. Yeah. Oh, no worries, no worries. But yeah, all in all, yes. So just to very quickly reiterate, yes, you can. You can set up maximum character limits. Basically, you can use formulas to check and measure. You can feed Gridly maximum values, and then Mike, thank you. Yeah, we just launched a new template that actually contains that as well. So if you start the trial, or if you already have Gridly, for instance, you can just create a new grid with that template, and it will already have the necessary formula set up for you. So you can basically just kind of plug and play. So no worries. Awesome. Thanks for jumping in, Mike. Cool. In that case, we're basically on time. So yeah, again, thank you very much, everyone. I hope this was insightful. And Johan, thank you very much for your time as well, and for all this good stuff. So yeah, thanks everyone, and have a lovely, lovely evening ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.